My name is Heather Mann, and I'm joined this evening by an esteemed panel of folks who have lots to say about Sangha building and earth holding, introducing it to communities in a variety of different ways, and even in a couple of different traditions. So we're going to have quite a cross-pollination of ideas tonight. And I'd like to begin, first of all, by just exploring the question of why Sangha. And I was moved by a quote that I read recently from Thai that says, "We need more than just new technology to protect the planet. We need real community and cooperation. We need to reestablish true communication, true communion with ourselves, with the earth, and with one another as children of the same mother." So how do we establish communion around the topic of earth holding and protecting? That's the question that I've been asking myself quite a bit lately, and I've realized that I can't begin to answer that question alone. So I need you here. That's why I am personally so grateful that you're here. And we have the opportunity tonight and beyond tonight to learn, to start a discussion and to continue it in the future and learn from one another. There are calligraphies around the monastery that Thai has made that says, "Go as a river." And I adore that calligraphy, because the rest of that teaching is that each of us is a drop, and we want to get to the ocean. And as a single drop, we can't get to the ocean by ourselves. But if we join with other drops, then we as a river will surely get to the ocean. So in that spirit, we will tonight be talking about our experiences, our diverse experiences with earth holding and protecting, both personally and in Sangha. We'll be talking about how to raise ecological mindfulness so that people have a deep understanding of the challenges before us and the causes and conditions. And we'll talk about how ecological mindfulness can increase the skillfulness of our community. And finally, we'll be talking about specific ideas for integrating earth-holding practices into Sangha life. There is one thing I want to just mention right at the beginning, is that there are people in our tradition that are familiar with Thai's teaching about not using our sanghas as a political instrument. And so they're very uncomfortable with the notion of beginning to insert earth-holding practice and advocacy within the community. And as you know, Thai has the 5 mindfulness trainings and the 14 mindfulness trainings that he's offered. And in the 14, we need to pay special attention to the 9th and the 10th. And the 10th in particular says, yes, we're not to be political instruments, but we do need to take a clear stand against oppression and injustice. And we do need to change the situation, and here's the key, without taking sides, coming from a place of love, understanding, and compassion. And then also in the 9th mindfulness training, he says we need to speak out even when doing so can cause difficulties or threaten our safety. Now, if you're like me, that kind of gives me the willies. But it's incredibly inspiring as well, because I know that if I can do that in Sangha, there is the protection and the wisdom of the community. And so that is the invitation. So I would like to have each of the panelists, as we begin this evening, to introduce themselves, and then they'll spend 10 to 15 minutes sharing what's in their hearts. And that's all I'm going to say at this point. I will chime in again a little bit later. But Kristen, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Why don't we have a sounding of the bell between each of the...
My dear new friends, my name is Kristen Barker, and I am coming to you from the Vipassana tradition. I was just in Joshua Tree at a retreat/training for the Community Dharma Leaders Program, and I've had that scheduled for a year and a half now. And then you so kindly scheduled this moment on the day that this began. Is the day that ended, and they were, 2 hours apart. So thank you so much for that. And I want to start with this wonderful story of, I picture Ananda having had a really wonderful Sangha experience and really feeling his own life, the Buddha's assistant, Ananda, who is his cousin, feeling like that was so essential to his path. And he went to the Buddha and said, could it be that the Sangha is half the holy life? And the Buddha said, oh no, Ananda, the Sangha is not half the holy life. The Sangha is the whole of the holy life. And I take that very seriously, that the sense of the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that he's saying something so deep there. We tend to think of the Buddha's, very solitary path, but there was the woman with the rice, and then so profoundly, there was the tree, the Bodhi tree, and the earth herself assisting in the awakening in a pivotal way. So I wanted to begin with that, and then I also wanted to point to a teaching from Thai, which he said that the next Buddha will be a Sangha. And I feel like the moment is before us to understand our own path to awakening essentially turns towards suffering, our individual suffering. And so the collective awakening must move through the collective suffering. So what a great opportunity is climate change for that. And it in fact is, that Zen saying, the sickness is medicine. So One Earth Sangha is the organization that I founded with Lou Leonard, who is head of the climate program at World Wildlife Fund, and with that aspiration to fulfill the essential role of Sangha in the awakening around climate change in particular, but other ecological crises such as mass extinction, the terrible treatment of animals under the CAFO system, confined animal feeding operations. And it's this understanding that while we may be very frustrated with the political landscape, the difficulty of changing these institutions, it was so beautifully named actually this morning. I loved it. I was like, oh, there's half my talk taken care of by Brother Fat Food talking about the individual poisons, the individual roots of greed, hatred, and delusion, and seeing how these manifest at the institutional level. So with greed, so easy to see corporate capitalism and just the fire to continue to consume and consume the planet as if it could possibly sustain that. I mean, it's kind of preposterous in a way, but the delusion is so strong to continue on that vein. And then, and really the consumerism. So the consumerism is one version of that institutionalized greed, but the corporate narrow focus on the profit margin as trumping everything else, and I use that word purposely. Thanks for laughing. And then institutionalized hatred, our militarism, is so easy to see as that. the prison industrial industry, easy to see as that. And then what of institutionalized delusion? Look no further than our mass media, which is so good at not talking about what's important, not telling us the news we need to hear, and actually feeding the other two so intensely. So the challenge that we have with these institutional forms is that if the people at the top have a change of heart, let's say they start going to a Thich Nhat Hanh Sangha, and they start to realize that happiness is not what we get when we get what we want. Happiness comes from something much deeper, much more authentic, a sense of well-being and connectedness. That person, that man or woman, has a change of heart. They get replaced by the board. No problem, you're out. Because so these rules and these habits have such a strong momentum. And so what is there to do but rise the tide of Sangha? And we can do it. I really, really do believe we can do it. So in our mission, it is to sort of base the whole thing on Dhamma, the Buddha Dhamma, make it very, very clear that Buddhism, as I was saying earlier today, Buddhism was engaged the moment the Buddha stood up. Buddhism became engaged. And actually the Buddha did intervene in wars and did all sorts of engagement things, not just spread the Dhamma. So with the foundation of Dhamma, then on top of that grow local sanghas. And I say local quite specifically, because while we're an online virtual organization, really our intent is to grow a network of local sanghas around the world of all different traditions. And actually many of them that we've helped spawn are cross-tradition, which to me is quite beautiful. And then on top of that, engagement. And engagement can be everything from personal sustainability commitments all the way up to getting arrested at the Capitol building, which I did for the first time a couple of weeks ago, trying to put myself in harm's way, I guess, following Thai's teaching. And seeing that whole triangle, if you will, of Dhamma, Sangha, engagement, as all in the realm of practice. It's all practice. This practice can mean anything. Anything in that space can be understood. We can do it mindfully, right? This is so clear in this tradition. I love that. So what I wanted to sort of point out 5 areas. How am I doing on time?
You have 7 minutes and 21 seconds.
Cool. 5 areas that we're going into, and it's all again sort of based on that Dhamma layer and the offering that we make there. Last fall we did this series of 8 online conversations called the Eco-Sattva training. That maybe can I see a raise of hands? How many people either heard about it or knew about it? Fantastic! Oh, that's wonderful to see. I want to hear how it went for you, and how we might improve it. And I'm happy later, if you're interested in that training, to share about it, because I don't have time to go into the whole arc of it right now. But the 5 steps that I came up with are 4, collecting, organizing, nourishing, and challenging. So collecting is in some ways maybe the most valuable thing we were doing. We didn't even know that this was perhaps the most valuable thing, which is in the Eco-Sattva training, people found each other. And they found each other sometimes across vast distances. And what I heard from folks is, as someone would be on our calls and then been put into a breakout group, we had these breakout groups, so you'd be talking to just 2 or 3 other people. And somebody in France would be talking to somebody in California and New Zealand. And there were some people who got up at whatever it was, 2:30 in the morning to be part of the live sessions with us. And so just to have the sense that around Gaia herself, we could be making these connections to say, I care, I'm very worried, I want to do something, I don't know what to do, I'm doing something, you know, and there was this sense of connecting. Organizing, so to think about how we do, how the load will be shared amongst folks who are gathering, and this is something that we want to get better at, so that these things are sustainable. So it's great to have that initiating energy. How can we help folks make sure that they can keep it going? And that ties to the third one, which is nourishing. So if they are constantly feeling both supported with practices and enrichment, new perspectives, being fed, and then also being, which is the fourth one, challenged. So it's this right mix, which is so much like our practice, right? That we know that we're sort of on the edge, but we're being helped by each other to work with our edge. And all of this at the end is culminates in action, but that's not really the point. And it's our perspective at One Earth Sangha that we don't need to be prescriptive about what actions people take. That our role in that Joanna Macy framing of there's 3 ways to go forward at this moment. We can holding actions, keep bad things from happening, create alternatives, make good things happen, you know, alternatives, energy, food production, those kinds of things. And then the third is transforming consciousness, and we see ourselves in that role that kind of feeds the other 2. And we're very clear about that. And I feel so clear about it because I feel like that what we're doing is just facilitating the natural unfolding of wisdom and compassion. That if we can help folks work with the hindrances, and we use that language in the Ego-Sattva training, the hindrances to action, and there are many, but they are nameable, and as we know in mindfulness, it's so powerful to name. They're nameable and they have antidotes. We can work with them. Then folks will naturally bring their own skills, and the last thing we want to do is tell people, here's what you need to do, because they can be responsive. I can look at your clock and see. So, this is the great work before us, right? As I was saying before, it could be that climate change is exactly what we need to wake up to our deep interdependence with each other and with all beings. And like our own practice, we find it comes at a price of suffering. We won't go there unless we're kind of, forced, and sometimes we don't even. And it's not clear that we'll be able to stave off, actually preserve preserve the option for a viable biosphere. But there's one way that we can be certain of the outcome, and that is to say that it's too late and that I don't matter. And if enough of us say, it's too late, I don't matter, then we know what the outcome will be. But otherwise, we don't. Mm-hmm. And so I like to frame it the other way, which is to say, if everyone who is concerned decides to start talking about it in the same way that we all started talking about, hey, I think it's okay to be gay. I think it's okay for people to be gay, do you? That was 100,000 million bazillion conversations, and suddenly, quite suddenly, we've got gay marriage. Because a lot of people came out. Well, I'm coming out right now as a human on planet Earth who cares about climate change. You too? Really? Some of my best friends care about climate change. So the last piece I'll say is that folks may have heard, I love Paul Hawkins' image a blessed unrest of, he talks about Gaia as having an immune system, and that the thousands and thousands of organizations around the world who are responding not just to climate change, but gun control and immigration and poverty and racism and all these things that share those three roots of greed, hatred, and delusion. These are all manifestations of making other. As soon as I make other, I can use and abuse and exploit. That is the central device. That is the central misunderstanding, is me, not me. Oh, I have to finish. Okay. So it is to say that we are all part of Gaia's immune system responding to threat. And like the human immune system, it doesn't have a central organ. It's diffuse, it's diverse. It's not like the nervous system or the circulatory systems, which both have a central organ. The immune system is composed of all these lymph nodes, and the tongue says, ooh, that tastes like poison, and the nose is like, let's get out of here. All these things are part of, and they look very different, and they don't talk to each other necessarily, but they all are responding to the proximate threat. And I feel like that's a wonderful metaphor for what we're doing here. We are Earth responding to threat. So you're in good company if you care. And what we need you to do is be that little lymph node cell. Do that thing you do. Respond to the threat that you feel. And you'll be collaborating with the Earth body. So thank you for your attention. It's an honor to be here.
Dear Ty, dear friends on the path, and dear panelists who I hold in awe, really. My name's Andrew Deckard, True Wonderful Direction, Dharma name, and I'm from Redding, California. And I really appreciated Sister Mainyim saying you can both have a rapid heartbeat and solidity when speaking with people, because that's where I am. Heather posed a question, why Sangha? And for me, the answer for myself is collective wisdom. Sangha is. Ty has a quote that says, in order to save our planet Earth, we must have a collective awakening. Individual awakening is not enough. And he's also said that the next Buddha may well be the Sangha and not an individual. I might have worded this, I've heard this in another way, in order to save our planet Earth. I've heard it also said, in order to save humanity, we need collective awakening, because the Earth will go on with or without us. And at some point, Mother Earth will say, enough of this abuse, and shrug off humanity's dominance. So I'm confident that the Earth will go on. I hope humanity does too. And the other why Sangha for me is to practice mutual support. That means for now and sharing our joys and pains now. It also means practicing and building those islands of sanity, those communities of resilience when the hard times come. And there'll be harder times than now. So I was also asked how Sangha, and for me it's a very limited, single view, because my Sangha is an isolated Sangha. My experience is, one person's experience. So I know there's many views, but I hope that some piece of what I'm about to share, some of you might find helpful in some way. So, in 1985, my partner of 30 years gave me Ty's book, Walking Meditation. And I thought to myself, I could put some of this to jogging meditation, put gata on the breath as I jog. And then I went to a retreat with Thai and the monks and nuns at UC Santa Barbara, and then monks and nuns were running on the beach, joyfully, playfully. I said, oh, this is for me. And I also was deeply inspired by Thai's life of engagement during war, after war, boat people, and throughout his life. So those are the two things that brought me to the practice. I moved to a small rural town in Shasta County, far northern California, near Mount Shasta, Mount Lassen, 3,000 people, about 23 years ago, and joined the Thai tradition Sangha there, River Oak Sangha. And there's a saying, you've been to one Sangha and seen one Sangha, well, you've seen one Sangha. our closest, Thai Sangha in any substantial way is in the Bay Area, about 4 hours away. So between working full-time still in public health and raising 3 boys and helping care for my father with Parkinson's and dementia in my home for several years, they didn't let me out much. I didn't let myself out much. So I've been practicing in this tradition for some time. Received the 14 mindfulness trainings in 2001 and have helped my Sangha in ways that I know how to do, like facilitate, help lead the recitation of the 14 mindfulness trainings, which we do every 5th Wednesday. Joined the caretaking council when we formed one about 6 years ago. Helped with the email list, helped with the website, and so on. We're lucky to have 2 teachers now, as of 2014. And we have in general about 15 to 20 people who show up to our weekly Sidwalk Sikh Dharma Share meetings. And we're also lucky that in this October 7th to 9th, we're going to have a retreat with the transmission of the 5 mindfulness trainings in Linfine, if you're interested or know someone who is. So what I want you to watch now is how Sangha activities can spin off and how individuals can find their place. So we have 2 Sangha activities that are separate from those weekly sits. We have several, I'm going to mention 2. One is Chanting Oak Sangha, where we get together and chant the songs in Plum Village tradition. We start by saying the words without singing and sharing what they mean to us. And if you look carefully, many of the songs have a connection with nature, and many of the lyrics have deep teachings in them. So besides the joy of singing together and the sense of community, there's also deep teachings in those songs and chants. And that's led by our 4th OI member, Lourdes, who's also starting a 14 mindfulness training recitation by phone across the country and world in Spanish, the 3rd Sundays of the month, if anyone's interested in that. And then a second activity of our Sangha is called Mindful Reading Group. And I facilitate that. It's been around for several years, started by another one of our members. And the structure is members of our Sangha come to the public library for 2 hours, a half-hour meditation, silent or guided. And then we take turns reading as much as we want, and the rest of us practicing deep listening. And the person who read stops when they want and shares what comes to them related to their practice in that passage. And then the others can comment, and of course people can pass. And we do this very leisurely. It's taken us a year to read each book, and we meet twice a month. And some of the books we've read is Lynn Jensen's Deep Down Things. He's a Zen teacher in Susanville State Prison who wrote about his growing up in the Central Valley of California and his connection with nature. Very beautiful. We read Active Hope by Joanna Macy, who many of you know, with the spiral that reconnects of gratitude, honor our pain for the world, see with new eyes, and go forth. And we're reading now Good Citizen by Thai. And we've tried many different practices to connect ourselves with the earth in those guided meditations in our mindful reading group. And those include things like I Am the Tar Sands by Nomi Green, who's here. And John Bell's Earth Day of Mindfulness excerpts. And Thai's Love Letters to the Earth. This is the Spanish version. And then that group in turn said, we want more, we want to go deeper, our mindful reading group. And so having done the Eco-Sattva training with One Earth Sangha in 2014, I invited eight of those folks to come to my house and do a live training this last fall. And it was marvelous. We did the 9:30 to 1:30, I think it was. And then we did, what did that mean to us, that experience? And then we did outside walking meditation. And then we had a mindful lunch together. And we bonded great, in both of these instances, mindful reading group and Eco-Sattva. And we've continued now without the umbrella of One Earth Sangha on our own in 2016, meeting in people's homes every other month. And we have a half day of mindfulness that's structured, sit, walk, sit, watch a film related to the earth, and then have a mindful lunch together. And what has happened is great bonding, great deepening of relationship, and knowing people beyond the lovely silent sit together, the lovely Dharma sharing in our weekly sittings. We are much more connected with people we've sat with for decades than we have ever been. And so we're building resilience, we're building community that way. Some of the films we've watched is Al Gore's last February 2016 TED Talk, which you get a chance to see tomorrow. If you haven't, highly recommend it. Happiness, which featured Thich Nhat Hanh among other teachers. And This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein. And one of our Sangha members in our Eco-Sattva group said, COP21, we've got to do something. There has to be something in Reading. So we started another group, but this time a going out public group, not just within our Sangha, called Stand for the Earth. And what we do is hold signs that we've lovingly made at people's homes by hand in a very mindful way. And we hold those signs up in a public place silently. It's modeled after Women in Black, if any of you are familiar with that, and I had the privilege of standing with our local Women in Black for many years, and which is about witnessing for peace and nonviolence. And so our first stand was with COP21 in front of a large shopping mall, and 30 of us showed up and stood for an hour. And then we gathered in a circle and afterwards and said, how was this for you? And shared and had bells. And so tried to approach it mindfully. And we have now a fact sheet for Stand for the Earth, and it says, who are we? We are your neighbors. What do we do? We have public stands to generate community dialogue on climate disruption. Our signs are things that are very locally meaningful to us. Drought, wildfire, no planet B, good stewardship. We're in a very conservative community, and so we've carefully researched language in climate change, especially for the kind of undecided, confused, ignorant middle, not the climate deniers and not the folks that are already on board. And there's some resources out there, George Mason University, Yale, Green Faith is another one that just put out Faith in Climate Change. And some of the messages that they tested and say resonate with most traditions are earth care, climate change is a moral challenge, climate change is disrupting the natural balance, and we live our practice through our actions. So I think language is very important, and we're learning by doing. So we had our second stand on Earth Day in front of City Hall, and there was about 1,000 people that showed up to the Earth Day, so there was good visibility. and along a busy street. And our next ones are going to be June 12th, which is a multi-faith climate change event led by, I think, Green Faith. And also either Election Day or COP22. I'm not sure which yet. I have a personal need to work with my local community, as you've heard, and my local Sangha. But I also need a connection to the larger community, the Mahasangha, us all here and beyond. And so I worked for 10 years with a group called mindfulpeacebuilding.org, if you want to check it out. And our motto is peace in ourselves, peace in the community, and peace in the world. And we work on racial justice, prison work, mindful holidays, service like homeless, serving of meals, World Water Day, climate change. I helped form a 501c3. I participated in all the Buddhist Climate Action Network phone calls except one. I'm very grateful for one or Sangha, and won't say any more, but you have my highest praise. And Earth Holder Sangha, the same now, is a Dharma door for me and for our group in wonderful, engaged practitioners and people. We brought the Plum Village COP21 5 pledges: wear green ribbons, don't eat meat for 2 weeks of COP21, take the Earth Peace Treaty commitment, which we've done individually in our Ecosafa and shared with each other, and come back several months later and say, how are you doing with your aspiration, and sharing that in public with each other. So I won't say more about Earth Holder Sangha because Heather will, and because I want to close with 3 lessons learned. I would say both inner and outer at once. I know there's different views, but I don't personally resonate with the view that I have to change myself internally first, and only then can I go work on the world. I think they're both two sides of the same coin. And if we don't help transform the mess we've made of our nest, well, our spirit has and will suffer. So it's discerning what step, as Kristen said, or peace is right for you. My second lesson learned is there's value in the journey of Sangha building regardless of outcome. For me, it's a spiritual growth to work on Sangha building. I used to be attached to outcome. I no longer am. I trust Mother Earth to go on. But there's value in the journey. It benefits deepening our own individual practice. It deepens our Sangha practice. And many people are hungry for meaning, for skillful means regarding the state of the world and their particular passion or deepest intention. And my third and final lesson is practicing in smaller groups deepens kalyanamitta, or spiritual friendship. It builds relationships and resilience. It will help us in hard times. It hears all voices. We have about 20 in our weekly sit, and our Dharma share sometimes is 15 or 20 minutes. In our mindful reading group and our Ecosafa, we hear each voice intentionally, like passing a talking stick over passing a book, or an Ecosafa Vows, or something that we share. And there's been research on how long people are comfortable with silence in a conversation. And it varies by culture, it varies by introvert and extrovert. And so having a means to hear all voices draws out the collective wisdom, which is what the beauty for me of Sangha is. So both inner and outer at once, value in the journey of Sangha building regardless of outcome, and practicing in smaller groups has its advantages. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we go on to Laura's sharing, I'd like to just insert a little announcement, actually, a plug here. So Laura's going to be talking about a new initiative, a new affinity group in our Plum Village tradition. And I want to talk about a tool that is not even off the press yet. It's in creation, and at this retreat, we're asking your involvement. It's called the Earth Holders Idea Book, a collection of Plum Village practices for befriending and healing Earth. And the story arc of this is that we've been meeting for months, and there's been lots of ideas sharing. We've been trying to collect them, and bloop, they all got dropped in here with a little bit of organization. This will be shared with you all. You'll say, oh, you forgot this, and you really need to speak to that, and oh, by the way, I really don't like this, and we'll go, oh, because we're learning as a Sangha how to do this work. And all of those ideas will be collected and shared with our communications committee, which will clean this up and make it something really beautiful, and then share it far and wide on multiple online platforms and hopefully in print as well. So we're creating a tool for our own community to learn how to do this work. And I just want to take a minute and talk about some of the pieces of this. The first piece is it starts out with sort of a framing of the causes and conditions, and that includes the greed and aversion and things that Brother Fu was talking about this morning, and also the causes and conditions of industrial livestock and agricultural production and transportation issues, all that kind of, so it's kind of, and why we're putting together a basis of common understanding of the causes and conditions is because whenever there's a disaster, and FEMA and other groups are called to the rescue, there is a common operating picture and a command and control center. And the reality is we have no common operating picture about a disaster that's happening in slow motion. So we need to start doing that, to start sharing information and getting at least a similar understanding of what's happening. The second thing in here is two kinds of calendar. One is we're trying to kind of collect and participate in the big events, the big global events, the People Climate March, and other things that are happening, and get the word out so that everyone is understanding what and can anticipate that on, let's see, this is May, in June, blah blah, there'll be a something or other. So sanghas can prepare and participate. The second kind of calendar, and that one is a little shorter because that'll probably be about 4 months. We're trying to just keep ahead of things. The second one is we would love, Ty is especially in his later years here, he's very interested in the Sangha acting in synchronicity. And one of the things that's included in here is a monthly calendar of key UN observances that we can all, as Sanghas, begin to use to put into our calendars and build practices around. Things like Global Soils Week, World Meat Free Day, International Week of Science and Peace, International Day of Biodiversity. I ask myself, why haven't I been having parties on these days? These are great days. The third thing that's in here, in addition to the suggestion for collective and synchronized practice, is ideas for individual practice. What can we do? And it is things that we can do in daily living to help wake ourselves up. Fourth in here is suggestions for sanghas. So simple things like form committees, many of the things that Andrew was talking about, offering Dharma talks, having voluntary simplicity circles where people talk about lifestyle changes and supporting each other, days of mindfulness on the Earth Holder theme, book clubs, movie nights, plant-powered potlucks. So there's instructions in here for how to do those things. And they are only meant to spark our own imagination and creativity because, you will do it in your own flavor. And then also in here are community actions of how to walk in our bringing our peaceful tradition in the midst of a big climate march. How to approach organizers with a bell and offer to just have a moment of silence, or perhaps a reading, just to set the tone for the day. How to organize flash meditations. And very, very good instruction in here on how to write a love letter to your elected official, or as a letter to the editor, so that we're raising community consciousness. There's poems and songs, and there's the 10 earth touchings. There's a beginning a new practice with Mother Earth, guided meditations, Dharma talks. There's an amazing resource list in here where the Sangha members to date have really put together a collection of their favorite books and films and organizations that they like working with, and also very reliable resources for accurate, unbiased science. Our founding documents for the Earthholder Sangha are in here, and even a sample press release, so that you can see how to get the word out about what you're doing. So this will be at the Earthholder Sangha table tomorrow, along with a piece of paper that says, you know, put this in there, here's my email for follow-up questions, or my phone number, and let's build this together. We will also have slips of paper that show you how you can find this as a Google Doc, so you can share it with others and also look at it in greater detail when you get home. There will be other great things that you can take home too tomorrow at the Earthholder table. So thank you very much for making a point to just touch base with this and help us create it, because it'll be a great opportunity to learn and to enrich our practice in many of the ways that Henry is suggesting. So, yay.
So dear friends, my name is Laura Hunter. My Dharma name is Chan Gao Hai, or True Ocean of Teachings. Terrifying name. And I didn't pick it, believe me. Thinking of like what our brother Fabu was talking about this morning, the vertical, what happened to bring us all here to this moment. 2 years ago in this year, in this month, 2 years ago, how many people were here, the Earthholder weekend? So we had 15 people, I think, got together and explored what's earth holding and what's the idea, and we had a really fun weekend. And since that time, the whole earth holder concept and effort and movement within our practice community has been growing and growing and growing. So I have the happy duty to share with you kind of where we're at and how everybody fits in, because believe me, there's a place for everyone. When we started, so there was like a big committee that was talking through things, and one of the things I wanted to share with you is, because it's very prevalent out there. I mean, the world was on fire. We have to hurry. We got to slap this thing together and get it out because, you know, time is running out. And I shared a lot of that energy. And so we had the real benefit of many wise practitioners on our what turned into the caretaking council. We had a number of really wonderful Dharma teachers. And we had calls again from all over the country, and it was really so nourishing, and I learned so much going through that process. And what we decided to do is we're going to follow our practice from the very beginning of this. And so that's what we did, and it took us a while to move this far. And for a while, the Earth Holders was just open to OI members because we wanted to be sure that it was well grounded in the practice. And given how long it took it for us to sort ourselves out between OI and Dharma teachers and monastics, it's probably good we were able to take these next steps. But now we're very happy to announce that it's really open to and inclusive of anyone practicing in our tradition. So I'll get to that in a minute. So it took several months because we had a lot of ideas and emotions to process. And so that took for a while. One practice I did want to share that was really touching to me is when the monastic Sangha makes a big decision, they do a very formal Sangha Karman procedure. And it might sound long, and it is, but you read the entire decision. This is the first time asking. No one says anything because we all agree. They read the whole thing again, second time asking, whole thing again. And it sounded long, but it was so deeply etched, the decision, into my physical body and my mind, that I think it's a good practice when something you really want to integrate into yourself, read it out loud with deliberation 3 times slowly, and it will penetrate you more. So one of the things we're very happy with, and I want to just read it from these documents that we put through the Sangha Karman procedure, and is also in the idea book, but these are called our founding documents. And this is our vision statement for the Earth Holder Sangha in the Plum Village tradition. We envision the Plum Village community helping to transform and heal our societies through mindfulness, community living, and the insight of inner being. We envision our societies living in harmony with the Earth's natural life-sustaining systems and all beings. Aware that much suffering is caused by war and conflict, we are determined to cultivate nonviolence, compassion, and the insight of inner being in our daily lives, and promote peace education, mindful mediation, and reconciliation within families, communities, ethnic and religious groups, nations, and the world. We believe that living this way, living deeply our daily lives, is climate action and is necessary to the process of healing ourselves and healing Earth. We envision the Plum Village community as an embodiment of the living Dharma, listening deeply to the cries of the poor and the cries of the earth. We are stopping and actively resisting the unwholesome ways of living that are leading to destruction of life on earth. The fruit of our practice, our insights and our actions, are bells of mindfulness ringing loudly, helping others to awaken, especially local communities, to the reality of inner being and the beauty and wonder of life. So I hope you think that sounds like us. So also included in this document is kind of our statement of values, which are 5 and 14 mindfulness trainings, and the work we're going to do, the actions we intend to pursue. We have 3 major zones of engagement or objective areas, however you want to talk about them. The first is to build a community of Plum Village Earth Holders. That's both facilitating individual practice and facilitating earth holding in sanghas and building sanghas as centers of earth refuge, learning, and action. And thank you, Andrew, for being like Exhibit A for the sangha that has done that. We'll all be studying you very, very closely. The other thing we put on here, and I think it's really important, and I even think it's more important having heard much of the dialogue in this retreat, that we want to communicate skillfully with people within our practice. We want to be open that everybody's in a different place when it comes to this threat, this reality, this situation. So we want to be sure that we communicate skillfully and handle each other skillfully as well. Our second major zone of engagement is to engage in mindful right action. So these are create best practices, which you see in the idea book. We want to organize and support our earth holder participation in key events And we want to participate with people outside of our practice. We don't want to just be talking to ourselves and living in a bubble. We want to get out and engage with One Earth Sangha, other faith groups, but also other groups in the immune system. And I'm loving that. Out in the immune system, we want to be the vitamin C that helps the rest of the immune system get even better. And we want to support and we want to participate in compassionate direct action. Many of the people originally in this wanted this to be in there because we want to be there, bear witness, and stand up for the earth, sit down for the earth, walk around for the earth for people. We want to do all of it. Jog for the earth. I guess there could be a jogging group too. And then the third area is to support and build sustainable communities of inner being. So these are local sanghas, communities, practice centers, such as our beautiful practice centers that we have, our monasteries. We would like to help make them models of sustainable living and even grow those. There's like the communities of mind, intentional communities are starting in a lot of places, and we want to help make that happen. So there's a whole lot of work and investigation and a lot of fun things to do around that. So those are kind of our big, bold ideas and that would feed into our vision that we're interested in. And hopefully you see a place for you in one of those. So the structure now, we had a couple false starts, but where we're at this minute is we have an Earth Holder Caretaking Council, or a CTC, that a number of us are on. And we have a very active, very competent communications committee that does a lot of, not most of the work. But we also have created a membership. And so this is what we're hoping to talk more with all of you about tonight and tomorrow. And this is an engaged practice, so engagement is necessary to become a member. So there are no dues, but we do ask you to take vows of engagement. And I'll just touch on them briefly so you know what they are and you can think about them, and hopefully some year we'll have our own ceremony and transmission, I don't know. But we're asking all members of the Earth Holder Sangha to make these following Earth Holder pledges. To aspire and pledge to study, observe, and practice the 5 or 14 mindfulness trainings. You do not have to have taken them, but we would like you to vow that you will study, observe, and practice. I aspire and pledge to move in the direction of more simple and compassionate living by signing on to the Earth Peace Treaty and committing to transform 3 unwholesome habits. So if you needed a reason, Earth Holder Pledge. I aspire and pledge to eat a plant-based diet at least 1 day a week. Really, more would be better. I aspire and pledge to participate in at least 1 Earth Holder global call to action per year. So we will be having series of actions, and we're trying to have the net grow up around that. I aspire and pledge to introduce at least 1 Earth Holder guideline to my local Sangha, and aspire and pledge to participate in our semi-annual Earth Holder Sangha conference calls and participate in Sangha decision making. So we hope that you will consider those vows. They're on purpose, that they're just not, hey, just sign this paper and you're in. We really do want people that are ready to engage and help be those Sangha eyes that we really need in that collective wisdom. We want to send the message that when you become a part of the Earth Holder Sangha, you are deliberately and of free will choosing to step on a path of engagement around these with full awareness. For those of you that aren't ready to go all the way yet, we have the ambassadors, and many of you might be ambassadors. We basically just ask the ambassadors to agree to share information with their sanghas that comes from the Earth Holder Sangha. So we hope you will come visit us at our table tomorrow during the Sangha Fair, and we really look forward to growing our ranks and acting for our future.
Noble community, we have some time now to share, because there's a lot of wisdom in this room. We would like to know what's in your heart, what do you aspire to manifest? What have you done that's worked? What have you done that hasn't worked? What ideas do you have for how we might support one another on the path of earth holding and protecting? So if you'd like to speak, please do this just like a Dharma family, bow in, and we will listen with our whole hearts until you bow out. Thank you.
I'm Keith from the Open Heart Sangha in San Diego. And one thing that I've been doing for many years now is putting this in the context of a story, the story of everything, the story of the universe. In particular, I've been studying a physicist, Brian Swim, who said that he thinks science's greatest contribution to the world is the story of the universe. Because now we have, for the first time, a coherent study, a coherent story of the whole evolutionary process of the birth and development of the universe. And it puts our current crisis in a context. And for instance, global warming is a reversal of a process of sequestering carbon that's been going on for 4 billion years. And in a heartbeat, we have reversed that process. So for the past 2 years, I've been teaching a curriculum which was developed at Yale University. Mary Evelyn Tucker, in the footsteps of Thomas Berry, has Brian Swim created a movie called The Journey of the Universe with Mary Evelyn Tucker. She developed a curriculum, and it relates the journey of the universe to very nitty-gritty realities like gangs in southeast Los Angeles, and had actual successful transformative experiences in classrooms by ennobling these kids with seeing themselves in the context of an evolving universe. So I could go on and on, so I won't. But story, a coherent story puts all of this in perspective and gives us a common story, one which is shared by the whole world, because the story that comes from science is not owned by any particular group, country. So anyway, that's something that I've been doing, and the course has struck a chord with people. After more than 2 years, we still have maybe 25 people showing up every month to wrestle with this and to think about it. And then I bring that into my Sangha facilitation, and then I take my Sangha facilitation into the class and use the bell and lead guided meditations. And then I integrate the story of the universe into the meditations that I lead in our Sangha. So I think it's another powerful element that could be added to this. Thank you.
I guess I'm interested. My name is Angelina, and I live in LA, Claremont. I'm pretty new to this, so forgive me if I'm not. I am asking something that is very ignorant. So as I was listening to you guys, I'm wondering. There's this emphasis on local sanghas, but I think many of us travel, both domestically and internationally. So I'm wondering what is the vision in terms of like the scope of what you're trying to do. Like, is there some international connections? And also, how about some of you mentioned other traditions, right? And I know people in the yogic tradition, for example, they have done a lot of work in this area. So I wonder if there are any communications with other traditions and other groups. So I'm interested in networking beyond the local sangha.
I'd like to speak to that in a couple of different ways. So you said, brought up a couple of things. So first of all, to the international piece. So One Earth Sangha is a global organization. I would say it kind of follows the footprints of colonialism, honestly. Like, if you look around, on the map of the world where we are, there's not so much in Africa and East Asia, Europe, yes, Australia, New Zealand, certainly U.S., Canada, some South America, Central America. So one of the potentials is to actually connect people who are either too far away from a center to be able to connect, with our local sangha. It's like it's not there. So our vision is to help stitch people together using the stripes around the planet, which is time zones, right? And so that they can connect with each other through increasingly accessible technology, although technology is still variable accessibility. So that's definitely, we're on the way there, not fully realized that. The other challenge that you mentioned was cross-tradition, and that is also explicitly part of our vision and mission, is to bring the wonderful diversity of the Buddhist wisdom path and its manifestations to the Sangha. So the Ecosattva training had folks from the Shambhala tradition, the Tibetan tradition, Insight, Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen, we even had a man from the Lakota, which isn't, there's so much in common. It's amazing, right? And it was very compatible what he was offering. So we really want to make sure that is there as a point of resonance for folks, so that they can see themselves and also learn from each other, because the gifts are just fantastic. And frankly, we just start, lifting up each other's stuff all the time. That's what I'm seeing. The specific community that you mentioned, the yoga community, is one that we're trying to reach. And I'm working with a guy who's in charge of the Bhumi Project, which is a global Hindu response, because both of us sort of share, we kind of feed into that. But we haven't really gone down that path, just sort of have ideas about it. So if you want to talk about that maybe afterwards, I'd be interested to hear what you think. Thank you for your question.
I'll just piggyback on that a little bit too. And this tradition, Thich Nhat Hanh has created a global practice community, and so there are sanghas worldwide. we had the experience of getting on our feet, getting organized with the Earth Holder Sangha. Stop me if you said this, I'm getting a little delirious, but getting organized with the Earth Holder Sangha, and then what the monastic community in Plum Village sent a delegation to the Paris talks. And as part of gearing up for that, they put together a website and said, Earth Holder Sangha, you are now not a North American group, it's a global institution. So, and by the way, would you manage North America, would you manage the global website? So it's awesome, and the challenge is for Asia, for different parts of Europe, for Australia, to create Earth Holder Sanghas that are taking lessons from what we're doing here in North America. So this is really all baby, just getting invented kind of stuff. We're really feeling our way here. But we're so ecstatic that the monastic community has given this the Plum Village seal, and that they are lifting it for the entire world as a model. So stay tuned. And there are ways of finding in this book how to connect with those sanghas worldwide.
Can I just share one more thing on that?
Yeah.
So just, and this is something we talked at length about, but so one of the questions was, do we want to create a bunch of new Earth Holder Sanghas that are all part of this umbrella Earth Holder Sangha, or and where we ended up is that really wasn't the goal, it was rather to have earth holding become part of many, if not all, of the existing sanghas. So there's earth holding practice, and then there's being an Earth Holder Sangha, which if you want to create a sangha, knock yourself out. If you want, that's what you want to do, then you do that. But that's not the specific desire, is to have a whole bunch of new Earth Holder Sanghas separate from our normal sanghas. We want to try to integrate the practices into those sanghas. So.
I wanted to briefly talk about another kind of building, which is actual building. I was the project manager for the nunnery project here, and so what that exposed me to, that was the first green building project that I've done. But I realized this incredibly rich resonance between our practice and green builders. And so I've nurtured that since my involvement here. And I think there's a lot of great synergies between the whole community that's involved in the green building community. There was a net positive conference here in San Diego. It's gotten to the point now where we as builders realize that not only do we need to be able to create carbon-free footprint buildings and structures, commercials and residences, is that we can actually do better than that. And so we can actually create net positive buildings. And it's amazing to me. I mean, I went to this conference and I thought there'd be 10 people there, and there were, a couple thousand from all over the world. So it's something, and what they're able to design, concepts like biomimicry, where we basically take natural concepts that are already, that nature's already designed, and use them to be able to have a wastewater system. So by the time they're processed through a building, doesn't send anything out into the public sewer system. It's able to just recycle it. Sustainable, renewable energy, obviously, green building technologies like straw bale that we used here. So I'm part of a collaborative that we've started here in San Diego. The architect for the monastery project and the landscape architect, who's also a Sangha member with me, are part of the collaborative. And I actually brought up this weekend and shared that with the collaborative. So I think there's this great possibility of other like-minded people in the actual green building community that would be interested in this as well. So I think there's some possibilities for that as well.
So Ed, I'm signing you up for Zone 3.
If I can just make a quick comment on that. So I think what that points to is one thing that we need to think about when those of us who are willing to name climate change in mixed company, when we do it, we often, it's often a grim conversation. You know, we talk about the coming storm and destruction, and I know I'm guilty of that. But I think that there's so much creativity and there's so much, reintegration into a deeper sense of belonging with each other and belonging to Mother Earth, and that's there for us, that is actually the very good news. It's exciting to engage in these creative projects where we really are designing with nature and with each other and for justice. So I guess I would just post that for those of us who are trying to find out how to talk about this. Because you asked me to speak to what doesn't work, and I didn't even get to that because I was running out of time. Sorry. But we know what doesn't work is finger wagging, right? We know that how'd that work out for us, right? Not so good, right? So, and it doesn't work to play the climate card, like, oh, everybody needs to work on climate change because without a livable climate, racism doesn't matter, or and that doesn't work either, and it's just not true. We need each other to work on gun control and racism and all these things. That's part of Gaia's immune system. So there's all these ways that I think we're learning how to talk about this, and that's something that I want us to get on our Sangha is that, how to talk with your Sangha, how to talk beyond your Sangha. But I think pointing to the excitement, the possibility, the richness, the ways that we can express our love is essential. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, dear Sangha, I'm Marge Wergel from San Diego, Open Heart Sangha. And building on that, Kristen, one of the most life-affirming, positive things that we have in our whole tool chest of action is how we're eating. And knowing that a plant-based diet is the most potent single action that we can take to prevent climate change. And I'm so thrilled that with the new membership opportunities we have with the Earth Holder Sangha, that we're being asked to take at least one plant-based day a week with our food choices. And I'm here as a support for that. I've been a 23-year plant-based eater, been teaching cooking classes, shopping trips, how to convert your kitchens, that type of activity. And our local Sangha has cooking classes now. We've been doing monthly plant-based classes. And so I want very much to work with the leadership of the Sangha to share resources, to give ideas, to support local Sanghas in various actions for more plant-based way of eating. So I'm very, very happy that this is moving forward. Thank you.
We have time for 2 more shares.
My name is Leilani. I live in San Diego. I want to say thank you so much for speaking, and thank you all. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for your service. Just a question, or maybe a suggestion, or make of it what you will. I would love to have all of this information on an app on my phone. So I know you're in the beginning stages, and the booklet that you're holding up and all the information that I'm hearing, I would love if it were in an app.
Great idea. Can you say why? What's the scenario that you're thinking of where it's like you're in the grocery store or whatever? Like what's
Right, so I'm thinking like I click on the app and maybe there's mindfulness action suggestions, maybe there's menu ideas, maybe there's, will you allow this app to use your location? Yeah, what other Sanghas are you near? Are you by plant-based eating opportunities? Are you near spiritually minded allies and communities that we can all be connected to? just, bringing it real time.
Real time. She is great.
May I ask, are you technologically savvy? Is this your field?
No, but I feel like we have a community in San Francisco. I feel like, and there's so many people, I know that we've got to have some people among us who are coding and who because there's so many amazing apps already in existence that assist with mindfulness practice, that assist with meditation. So I feel like this is the next level. This is bringing Sangha into
Great one.
this other dimension.
Would you like to work personally on this project?
Yeah.
Would you like to share phone numbers at the end of this talk? Thank you.
Great.
That's a great idea.
Huzzah.
I just wanted to make a quick announcement. I work with San Diego 350 and 350 nationally, and as well as a number of other organizations, is planning a mass mobilization in 2 weeks, May 14th in Los Angeles, as well as some other places in the U.S. and around the world. But if you live here in San Diego, we are chartering some buses to leave from Qualcomm on that morning and return that afternoon. So
To Los Angeles, correct?
yeah, to Los Angeles, yeah. So.
Thank you, brother. Just so you know, monastic community is going to that as well as many of the earth holders and other people. So,
Oh, good.
What is that event?
Pardon me?
Was it an event or something?
Yeah.
It's break
It's called-
free.
Called Break Free from Fossil Fuels.
It's on page 27.